Iran at the edge of a new era. At the dawn of last year, Iran stood at a precarious intersection of history, politics, and society. Its streets were crowded with daily life, yet beneath the ordinary hum existed an unspoken tension, a weight that pressed equally on government officials in Tehran, oil workers in Abadan, students in Isfahan, and families across the nation. Iran was a nation tested, observed, and often misunderstood, straddling the line between influence abroad and fragility at home. Globally, Iran remained one of the most watched countries in the Middle East. Analysts in Washington, London, and Brussels debated its intentions, while diplomats calculated every interaction with careful precision. The shadow of previous conflicts, nuclear disputes, sanctions, proxy wars hung over the nation like an invisible but persistent storm cloud. And while international scrutiny intensified, life inside Iran continued, caught between survival, ambition, and cautious hope. Political landscape. Iran's leadership entered the year under pressure from multiple directions. Domestically, the government needed to maintain stability in a society still sensitive to unrest. Internationally, it faced accusations and sanctions, particularly over its nuclear ambitions and regional involvement. Balancing internal control with external assertiveness had become a defining challenge for the state. Official statements projected strength. Speeches emphasized independence, resistance, and national dignity. Iran's leaders repeatedly highlighted their country's right to sovereignty and self-defense, framing their regional influence as both strategic and principled. This rhetoric reinforced unity for some and frustration for others, but the effect was undeniable. Iran was determined to assert itself, even as the world watched closely. Economic pressure. Economic challenges were an ever-present reality. Inflation, currency volatility, and sanctions combined to make everyday life difficult for many Iranians. The rial's instability meant that ordinary purchases from groceries to medicine became unpredictable. Small businesses struggled to import materials, factories faced shortages, and households had to constantly adjust to rising costs. Despite these pressures, the Iranian economy showed resilience. Oil exports continued, albeit in reduced or sanctioned channels. Local industries adapted, and informal markets expanded to compensate for shortages. Survival became a central skill for citizens, quietly shaping the social fabric. Regional influence and tensions. While domestic challenges persisted, Iran projected power beyond its borders. Its influence extended across Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, and Yemen, often through proxy groups and alliances that operated with a degree of deniability. The country avoided open confrontation with Israel and Western powers, but it maintained a presence capable of altering regional dynamics at a moment's notice. The Gaza conflict and activities in the Red Sea highlighted this dual strategy. Iran could exert influence without direct war, but each action carried risk. Its military, missile, and drone programs were steadily modernized, sending signals both to adversaries and to its own people. Iran remained formidable and resilient. Society at a crossroads. For ordinary Iranians, the year began with caution. Families discussed politics in hushed tones. Young people navigated education and employment under constant uncertainty. Women, artists, and students experimented with subtle forms of resistance, from cultural expression to social media activism. Fear and hope coexisted. Citizens recognized the government's authority, yet quietly questioned its decisions. They lived in a balance between adaptation and aspiration, aware that the nation's future depended not only on foreign policy but also on the fragile cohesion of Iranian society itself. A nation tested. By the end of the early months, it was clear, Iran was a nation both tested and tested again. Its leadership confronted external threats, internal unrest, and economic pressures simultaneously. Its citizens endured hardship while seeking meaning and normalcy. And the world watched, sometimes with fear, sometimes with curiosity, as one of the region's most complex countries navigated an uncertain path. This was Iran at the edge of a new era poised between confrontation and compromise, strength and fragility, tradition and change. What the coming months would bring depended on choices made both within its borders and beyond them. Gaza, resistance, and Iran's expanding shadow. As last year progressed, Iran's attention and the world's turned to the ongoing conflict in Gaza. For Tehran, the war was more than a distant humanitarian crisis, it was a test of influence, ideology, and strategic patience. The Gaza conflict reshaped regional alliances and brought Iran's proxy network into the spotlight, reminding the world of its reach without ever engaging in full-scale warfare. Regional influence through proxies. Iran's influence in the Middle East has long relied on a complex network of allies and proxy groups. Hezbollah in Lebanon, militias in Iraq and Syria, and the Houthi forces in Yemen formed a web of operational partners capable of exerting pressure on rivals while maintaining plausible deniability for Tehran. Last year, these groups became increasingly active. Hezbollah escalated its presence along Israel's northern border. Militia factions in Iraq targeted American-linked bases with rocket and drone strikes. The Houthis expanded operations in the Red Sea, disrupting shipping and drawing global attention. Each incident reinforced Iran's ability to project power without deploying its conventional military directly. The Red Sea crisis. The Red Sea became a focal point for regional instability. Houthi drone attacks and missile incidents disrupted vital shipping lanes connecting Asia, Europe, and the Middle East. Energy transport, including oil shipments, faced delays and risks, driving up insurance costs and international concern. Western powers quickly attributed the disruption to Iran's strategic orchestration, though Tehran denied direct involvement. Official statements emphasized support for the Palestinian cause and resistance to foreign domination, but denied controlling every regional actor. The ambiguity allowed Iran to expand influence while avoiding direct conflict, a hallmark of its strategic approach. Gaza as ideology and strategy. For Iran, Gaza represented both a moral and political battleground. Support for Palestinians allowed Tehran to position itself as a regional defender of the oppressed. It reinforced narratives of resistance against Israel, Western influence, and global inequities. State media amplified images of destruction and civilian suffering, framing events in Gaza as evidence of ongoing injustice. This messaging resonated domestically, strengthening internal legitimacy, while signaling commitment to external allies. Iran's statements were not merely rhetorical, they were part of a broader strategy of influence and deterrence. Avoiding direct confrontation with Israel. Despite proxy engagements, Iran carefully avoided direct military confrontation with Israel. Targeted strikes, cyber operations, and intelligence maneuvers occurred in the shadows, maintaining pressure while preventing escalation. Both sides demonstrated a tacit understanding: a full-scale war would be catastrophic. This shadow war was unpredictable yet controlled. Every missile test, drone deployment, and covert strike communicated resolve without crossing the line into total war. The strategy was deliberate: leverage influence abroad while containing domestic and international risk. Domestic implications. While projecting strength internationally, the Iranian population faced mounting domestic pressures. Sanctions affected daily life, inflation surged, and basic goods became more expensive. Workers, students, and families quietly bore the cost of foreign policy victories, raising questions about the balance between national pride and individual hardship. At the same time, societal patience remained fragile. Protests occasionally erupted but were quickly contained. Teachers, laborers, and women continued subtle forms of dissent, signaling that while the population endured, it did not blindly comply. International reactions. The West, particularly the United States and European powers, closely monitored Iran's activities. Military and economic pressure intensified, accompanied by warnings about the consequences of continued regional intervention. Meanwhile, allies such as Russia and China maintained diplomatic support, emphasizing Iran's right to sovereignty and regional influence. This global tension reinforced Iran's dual challenge: maintaining internal stability while expanding influence abroad. Every decision risked a reaction, every action carried consequences. Strategic patience and messaging. By the middle of the year, it became evident that Iran's approach combined patience with assertiveness. Proxy operations demonstrated reach. Diplomatic messaging reinforced ideology. Military displays reminded the world of capabilities. And yet, every act was calibrated to prevent open war, demonstrating a careful and calculated balance. Iran's shadow strategy proved effective. Its influence grew without triggering direct confrontation, but it also increased scrutiny, creating a cycle of tension that persisted across the region. The quiet conclusion. As last year's conflicts in Gaza continued to evolve, Iran's role became clear: it was a nation capable of projecting power, shaping outcomes, and testing limits without fully committing to war. This delicate balancing act defined the early months of last year, setting the stage for internal challenges, nuclear disputes, and international diplomacy that would dominate the months to follow. Inside Iran, economic strain and social pressure. While Iran projected strength abroad, internally the nation grappled with mounting economic pressures that shaped everyday life. Inflation, currency volatility, and sanctions converged to create a landscape of hardship for ordinary Iranians. The economic crisis was not just a number on a report, it was a lived reality in kitchens, marketplaces, schools, and factories across the country. Currency collapse and daily hardship. The Iranian rial continued its decline against major global currencies, reducing purchasing power for millions. Families found that essentials, food, medicine, and fuel became progressively harder to afford. What was accessible one week could be unattainable the next. For small business owners, uncertainty was constant. Factories struggled to import raw materials due to sanctions, resulting in layoffs and reduced production. Shops in Tehran and provincial towns alike faced supply gaps, forcing citizens to adapt to rising costs and shortages. Survival had become a daily exercise in planning and compromise. Sanctions and their human impact. Sanctions, often discussed in diplomatic circles, had very tangible effects. They restricted trade, limited access to foreign technology, and constrained the banking system. Ordinary Iranians felt the results immediately. Medicine shortages affected the elderly, students struggled to access education resources, and many young professionals considered leaving the country to pursue opportunities abroad. The government emphasized resilience and self-reliance, promoting the concept of a resistance economy. Citizens were encouraged to adapt, but for many, the rhetoric could not mask the difficulty of living in a nation where economic hardship was an unrelenting companion. Fragmented protests and social frustration. Large-scale protests were rare compared to previous years, but discontent persisted. Teachers and healthcare workers staged small strikes over unpaid wages. Industrial workers organized brief walkouts. Women continued subtle forms of protest in public spaces, challenging restrictive norms in ways that were often invisible to the state. Security forces remained vigilant, managing dissent through selective interventions rather than widespread crackdowns. The state maintained order, but the population's quiet dissatisfaction continued to simmer beneath the surface. Youth under pressure. Iran's youth, constituting the majority of the population, faced limited prospects. Job scarcity, economic instability, and restrictions on freedoms created a sense of frustration and uncertainty about the future. Many looked outward, seeking education or employment abroad, contributing to a gradual brain drain. Those who remained found ways to adapt, engaging in creative work, entrepreneurial ventures, or subtle forms of political and cultural expression. Social media, art, and online communities became spaces for connection, resistance, and discussion, even under strict surveillance. Psychological toll and societal adaptation. The cumulative effect of economic strain and political pressure created widespread fatigue. Families planned cautiously, businesses operated conservatively, and citizens measured their actions against potential consequences. Hope was tempered with realism, trust in institutions was eroded, though social cohesion remained strong. Despite the challenges, life continued. Children went to school, markets remained busy, and cultural traditions persisted. Iranians had learned to navigate uncertainty, balancing survival with the desire for a more secure and meaningful existence. Preparing for external challenges. The internal economic crisis was inseparable from Iran's regional and international actions. Military expenditures, proxy support abroad, and nuclear program activities competed with domestic needs for resources. Balancing these priorities became an ongoing challenge for leadership, influencing decision-making at every level. By the mid-year point, Iran's domestic situation had become both a vulnerability and a test of endurance. The nation's ability to project power abroad depended on the resilience of its society at home, a delicate balance that would be tested further as the year progressed. Conclusion. The story of Iran's internal struggles highlighted a paradox: a nation capable of influencing regional events while its citizens faced hardship at home. Inflation, sanctions, and societal pressures shaped daily life, quietly challenging both leadership and population to adapt. This domestic reality would soon intersect with global concerns over Iran's nuclear ambitions, military capabilities, and international diplomacy, creating a complex web of challenges that would define the year. Nuclear ambitions and global deadlock. Among the defining issues shaping Iran's last year was its nuclear program, a matter that drew international attention, fear, and debate. The nuclear question was at once technical, political, and symbolic, a demonstration of sovereignty for Tehran, and a source of anxiety for much of the world. Last year, Iran's nuclear activities became a central point of tension, intertwining domestic policy with foreign relations and regional security. Uranium enrichment and international concern. Reports from the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, documented increasing levels of uranium enrichment. While Iran insisted its program was for peaceful civilian purposes, the international community remained skeptical, particularly given the history of prior concealment and compliance violations. The IAEA highlighted restricted access to certain sites, raising concerns about transparency. Western governments voiced alarm, warning that Iran's nuclear trajectory could destabilize the region. Tehran responded by asserting its sovereign right to develop nuclear energy, framing accusations as politically motivated attempts to undermine national independence. The shadow of the JCPO. The Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPO, once considered a diplomatic breakthrough, remained unresolved. Attempts to revive the deal stalled repeatedly. Iran demanded sanctions relief and assurances against unilateral actions by Western powers. In contrast, the United States and European nations insisted on verifiable limits and monitoring mechanisms. These negotiations, often conducted through indirect channels, reflected a deeper deadlock. Both sides recognized the catastrophic consequences of escalation, yet neither trusted the other enough to compromise. The nuclear stalemate became a defining feature of Iran's foreign relations last year. Domestic implications. Iran's nuclear ambitions also carried significant domestic weight. Leadership used the program as a symbol of national pride and resilience, reinforcing narratives of independence and technological advancement. State media frequently emphasized progress in nuclear research, positioning it as a cornerstone of Iran's strategic autonomy. However, maintaining the program amidst sanctions and economic strain required resources that could otherwise support domestic needs. The government faced a delicate balancing act, projecting power internationally while addressing or at least managing internal economic pressures. Regional anxiety. Israel, the Gulf states, and other regional powers closely monitored Iran's nuclear developments. Threat assessments, military readiness, and intelligence operations intensified, although both sides avoided direct confrontation. The mere possibility of Iran achieving nuclear capabilities created a climate of caution, strategic maneuvering, and heightened alert across the region. Proxy actors and deterrence strategies further complicated the picture. Iran's regional influence relied not only on conventional power but also on the perception of its strategic reach amplified by nuclear capability. Every missile test or public announcement about enrichment levels became a signal to rivals and allies alike. International diplomacy and deadlock. Diplomacy over Iran's nuclear program last year was marked by indirect communications, quiet negotiations, and frequent misinterpretations. Mediators struggled to bridge the gap between Iran's insistence on sovereignty and the international demand for accountability. The result was a persistent stalemate, neither collapse nor progress, but a tense equilibrium that left room for escalation or compromise. Sanctions remained in place, trade restrictions continued, and the potential for renewed military pressure loomed as a background threat. Iran navigated this environment with cautious pragmatism, demonstrating patience while signaling determination to maintain its nuclear trajectory. The global message. The nuclear issue sent clear messages to multiple audiences. To the Iranian people, the state was advancing technologically and defending sovereignty. To regional rivals, Iran could not be ignored or underestimated. To global powers, confrontation was not desired, but self-restraint had limits. This multifaceted messaging reflected a complex strategy, balancing domestic legitimacy with international deterrence. Conclusion. By the end of the period, Iran's nuclear ambitions had solidified their role as a central issue in regional and global politics. The deadlock with the international community persisted, shaping foreign policy, economic strategy, and domestic perception. Iran's ability to navigate this challenge without provoking direct military conflict, maintaining internal stability, and managing global scrutiny became a testament to its strategic patience. Yet, the stakes were clear: any miscalculation, misinterpretation, or unanticipated event could rapidly escalate tensions, forcing both Iran and the world to confront the limits of diplomacy and restraint. Diplomacy in the shadows. Iran and the United States. Last year, Iran's relationship with the United States remained one of the world's most delicate balances. Neither side sought open war, yet neither fully trusted the other. The interactions were cautious, indirect, and highly strategic, demonstrating that modern diplomacy often occurs in the shadows rather than in public statements. Indirect channels and quiet negotiations. Official diplomatic ties between Tehran and Washington were still severed. Yet through intermediaries, regional allies, and back channels, communication continued. Messages were exchanged discreetly, often involving complex negotiations over prisoners, sanctions, or potential compromises. Prisoner swaps became a symbolic and practical tool, offering temporary relief while reinforcing leverage. For Tehran, these exchanges were both humanitarian gestures and signals of strategic capability. For Washington, they were a way to mitigate crises without appearing weak domestically. The art of avoiding direct conflict. Military posturing remained a key element of U.S.-Iran interactions. The United States reinforced its presence in the region, deploying aircraft carriers, repositioning troops, and monitoring strategic waterways. Alerts were issued when Iranian proxies struck US-linked targets, but strikes were measured to avoid escalation. Iran responded with careful restraint. Missile tests, drone exercises, and regional proxy operations conveyed capability without crossing red lines. Every maneuver was calculated to demonstrate strength while avoiding direct confrontation. Internal pressures shaping strategy. Both nations faced domestic constraints that influenced foreign policy. In Iran, leadership emphasized national pride, sovereignty, and resistance against foreign domination. Conceding too much could weaken internal legitimacy. In the United States, political divisions and upcoming elections limited flexibility. Any perceived concession to Iran risked domestic backlash. Consequently, indirect diplomacy became a means of engagement without political vulnerability. Regional implications. Neighboring countries closely watched the US-Iran dynamic. Gulf states balanced between cooperation with the United States and caution regarding Iran's influence. Iraq attempted to manage Iranian-linked militias while hosting American forces. Syria remained a contested zone, with Tehran and Washington observing each other's maneuvers. This indirect tension shaped regional security. Proxy conflicts, intelligence operations, and political maneuvering became the norm, demonstrating that diplomacy and deterrence could coexist without direct war, at least temporarily. The role of strategic messaging. Both Iran and the United States employed communication as a tool of strategy. Public statements, military exercises, and proxy actions sent carefully curated messages to each other, regional allies, and domestic audiences. Iran's narrative emphasized sovereignty, resilience, and regional legitimacy. The United States emphasized deterrence, commitment to allies, and oversight of nuclear developments. Both sides maintained a delicate balance of signaling strength while avoiding escalation. Psychological and global dimensions. For ordinary citizens in both countries, these interactions often seemed distant. Yet the consequences were real: sanctions, trade disruptions, regional tensions, and the constant threat of miscalculation affected economic stability and security. Globally, observers noted the unique nature of US-Iran diplomacy, a relationship defined not by direct negotiation but by calculated restraint, indirect engagement, and continuous monitoring. The shadow diplomacy of last year highlighted the complexity of modern international relations. Conclusion. By the end of the year, Iran and the United States had maintained an uneasy balance. Hostility persisted, but open conflict had been avoided. Strategic patience, indirect communication, and careful signaling defined the dynamic. This delicate equilibrium reinforced Iran's broader strategy: assert influence abroad, manage domestic pressures, and avoid catastrophic confrontation. Yet the margin for error was narrow, and the world watched closely, aware that one misstep could shatter the balance. On the brink, military incidents and near-war moments. Last year, the Middle East repeatedly teetered on the edge of conflict. Iran's calculated regional strategy, combining direct deterrence, proxy influence, and careful signaling, was tested as multiple incidents threatened to escalate into full-scale war. The region experienced moments where diplomacy, military readiness, and luck intersected, preventing catastrophe but revealing the fragility of the balance. Escalation across multiple fronts. Iran's proxy network remained active and increasingly assertive. In Iraq and Syria, militias aligned with Tehran conducted attacks on foreign-linked bases, often timed to coincide with geopolitical developments. Hezbollah in Lebanon increased its visibility along Israel's northern border, conducting drills and limited rocket launches. Meanwhile, Houthi forces in Yemen intensified missile and drone operations, disrupting Red Sea shipping routes. Though Iran denied direct command over every action, coordination and strategic alignment were evident. Each operation served dual purposes: signaling Iran's reach to rivals and maintaining plausible deniability to avoid provoking a direct response. Missile tests and strategic messaging. Iran's missile program continued to advance. Tests demonstrated range, precision, and the ability to deliver payloads accurately. These public displays were not solely technical, they were strategic communications intended for multiple audiences, regional adversaries, global powers, and the domestic population. The message was clear: Iran had the tools to defend itself, deter aggression, and respond if necessary. Yet the leadership was careful to avoid crossing thresholds that could trigger open war, preserving a delicate equilibrium. Drones and naval tensions. The seas became another theater of near conflict. Drone incursions, missile launches, and electronic interference in the Persian Gulf and Red Sea tested the vigilance of international navies and commercial shipping. Alerts were frequent, and insurance rates for maritime transport surged in response to perceived risks. These encounters highlighted Iran's strategic use of asymmetric warfare. Instead of confronting global powers directly, Iran leveraged mobility, technology, and uncertainty to maintain influence and deterrence. Israel-Iran tensions. Israel closely monitored Iranian activities, conducting precise strikes on Iranian-linked assets in Syria and Lebanon. Each action was calibrated to degrade capabilities without provoking wider conflict. Iran responded indirectly, leveraging proxies and public statements to assert strength while avoiding a direct military clash. This shadow war required constant attention. Every drone, missile, and covert operation risked escalation. The proximity to open conflict underscored the stakes. Miscalculation could have regional consequences far beyond the immediate battlefield. Narrow escapes and calculated retreats. One of the most alarming incidents last year involved a near clash between Iranian and U.S. forces in the Gulf. Missile and drone activity triggered military alerts, forcing rapid responses from both sides. For hours, the region stood on high alert, demonstrating how quickly routine operations could spiral into crisis. Fortunately, restraint prevailed. Both Tehran and Washington chose measured responses, illustrating the role of strategic patience and diplomacy even amidst tense circumstances. Domestic implications. Iranian citizens observed these events with a mix of pride and apprehension. Media emphasized technological and military achievements, reinforcing narratives of strength. Simultaneously, the threat of escalation and international retaliation reminded civilians of the high stakes involved. The balance of power abroad had direct consequences for life at home. The strategic outcome. By the end of the year, Iran had successfully demonstrated regional influence without crossing into full-scale war. Its military and proxy operations conveyed capability and resolve, while restraint preserved a fragile stability. Yet the incidents served as stark reminders: the line between conflict and war remained thin, and the consequences of miscalculation were immense. Iran's strategy of calculated engagement had proven effective, but the margin for error was narrower than ever. The world watched closely, aware that the next incident, no matter how small, could reshape the region entirely. Voices under watch: human rights, media, and cultural resistance. While missiles, proxies, and diplomacy dominated headlines, another battle unfolded within Iran itself: a struggle over freedoms, expression, and the rights of citizens. Last year, human rights, censorship, and societal control remained pressing concerns, shaping both domestic life and Iran's global image. Surveillance and control. Iran's government maintained a sophisticated network of monitoring and control, focusing on dissent before it could escalate. Security forces acted strategically, targeting specific individuals or groups rather than engaging in mass crackdowns. Internet restrictions, temporary social media blockages, and digital surveillance were employed to manage the flow of information. Messaging apps were disrupted during sensitive events, while journalists, academics, and artists operated under heightened caution. The aim was not overt fear, but uncertainty, a psychological tool that reinforced control. Women and everyday resistance. Women continued to be at the forefront of quiet, everyday forms of resistance. Subtle defiance in clothing choices, participation in public spaces, and the use of digital platforms allowed Iranian women to challenge restrictive norms without triggering mass reprisals. Though often invisible internationally, these acts were significant domestically. They demonstrated resilience, agency, and the ongoing desire for dignity and autonomy. Each gesture contributed to a cumulative effect of silent resistance, shaping societal attitudes and signaling that control was never total. Executions, detentions, and international pressure. Reports from human rights organizations highlighted executions, arbitrary arrests, and restrictions on freedom of speech. These reports attracted global attention and condemnation. Iran's leadership dismissed accusations as politically motivated, asserting that external powers selectively focused on Iran while ignoring broader global issues. Despite this, the international criticism affected diplomatic relations, reinforcing sanctions and limiting cultural exchanges. Cultural expression as subtle protest. Art, literature, music, and theater became vehicles for subtle dissent. Underground exhibitions, independent publications, and digital performances provided spaces for creative expression while navigating the constraints of censorship. Artists and cultural figures used metaphor, allegory, and humor to comment on social and political issues, reaching audiences within and beyond Iran. These acts reinforced identity, preserved cultural vitality, and allowed citizens to maintain a sense of agency under restrictive conditions. Youth, social media, and digital activism. Iranian youth leveraged social media to amplify their voices, share information, and organize discreetly. Despite government restrictions, encrypted apps, and alternative platforms allowed the circulation of ideas and creative content. This digital activism was both cultural and political, bridging gaps left by traditional protest channels. Young Iranians used these networks to discuss inequality, share frustrations, and support one another in navigating societal pressures. Global perception vs. reality. Internationally, Iran's human rights record shaped perceptions and policy decisions. Western governments used human rights concerns to justify sanctions and diplomatic pressure, while some global South nations acknowledged Iran's resistance to Western influence, framing it as sovereignty and resilience. Domestically, citizens experienced the tension between global image and lived reality. Life continued despite restrictions, but the constant surveillance and social pressures created an underlying sense of caution and adaptation. Balancing order and legitimacy. The Iranian government's strategy aimed to maintain order while avoiding outright rebellion. Enforcement was precise, messaging controlled, and stability prioritized. Yet maintaining this balance came at the cost of trust, personal freedom, and civic engagement. Ordinary citizens learned to navigate these restrictions, finding small ways to assert autonomy, preserve dignity, and participate in cultural life, reminding the state that endurance and control were not synonymous. Conclusion. By the end of the year, Iran's internal landscape was defined by careful control, subtle resistance, and ongoing adaptation. Human rights challenges persisted, youth and women continued to push boundaries, and cultural expression flourished in creative, resilient ways. While military and diplomatic developments drew global attention, the quiet struggle for dignity, freedom, and expression within Iran remained a defining element of the nation's story. This internal tension would continue to influence policy, society, and Iran's role in the world. Alliances and influence: Iran, Russia, and China. As Iran navigated internal pressures and regional tensions, it simultaneously strengthened its global partnerships, particularly with Russia and China. Last year, these alliances became critical pillars of Tehran's strategy, providing economic relief, military cooperation, and geopolitical leverage in a world increasingly focused on sanctions and regional stability. Strengthening ties with Russia. Iran's relationship with Russia deepened through shared interests in Syria, defense technology, and regional geopolitics. The two nations coordinated on military operations, intelligence sharing, and strategic messaging to counter Western influence. Missile and drone technology exchanges, joint training exercises, and high-level diplomatic visits reinforced the partnership. Russia provided not only political cover in international forums but also a measure of economic and military support that allowed Iran to pursue its ambitions without fear of isolation. Expanding relations with China. China became another crucial partner. Investments in Iran's energy sector, infrastructure projects, and trade agreements created alternative economic channels outside Western-dominated markets. Tehran's participation in the Belt and Road Initiative provided access to critical trade networks, helping offset the impact of sanctions. China's support also carried symbolic weight. By endorsing Iran's sovereignty and development, Beijing signaled to the international community that Iran was not alone, strengthening its global standing and reinforcing its strategic patience. Regional influence and strategic messaging. Iran used these partnerships to expand its influence across the Middle East. Its support for proxies in Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen was both political and operational. Allies benefited from funding, weapons, and training, while Iran maintained plausible deniability in direct conflicts. These actions sent a message to both allies and adversaries: Iran could operate confidently on multiple fronts, with powerful global partners watching and, in some cases, supporting its moves. Economic and military calculations. Cooperation with Russia and China also had practical benefits. Access to alternative markets, technology, and investment helped Iran sustain its economy amid sanctions. Military coordination allowed Tehran to modernize capabilities, improve readiness, and maintain regional deterrence without overextending resources. Domestically, these alliances were framed as victories of diplomacy and resilience. State media highlighted the partnerships as evidence of Iran's growing influence and international respect, bolstering national pride even amidst economic hardship. Navigating global perceptions. While these alliances strengthened Iran strategically, they also complicated its global image. Western powers viewed the partnerships as a threat to regional balance and global security. Conversely, countries in the global south often framed Iran's cooperation with Russia and China as a stand against Western dominance, portraying Tehran as a resilient, independent actor. This duality reflected Iran's careful diplomacy, projecting strength abroad while managing internal pressures, navigating sanctions, and avoiding direct confrontation. Balancing external and internal priorities. Iran's leadership faced the challenge of balancing its external ambitions with domestic needs. Military support for proxies, nuclear development, and regional influence demanded resources that could have alleviated economic hardship at home. The strategy relied on endurance. Citizens continued to bear economic strain while the state projected strength internationally. Conclusion. By the end of last year, Iran's alliances with Russia and China had solidified its position as a regional power. Economically, militarily, and politically, these partnerships allowed Tehran to navigate sanctions, sustain influence, and deter rivals. Yet the dual challenge remained, managing domestic fatigue while expanding external influence. The careful balance between internal resilience and international projection defined Iran's strategy and set the stage for the final chapters of the year, focusing on social resistance, economic survival, and potential futures. Digital shadows: youth, social media, and cultural resistance. While international diplomacy, military strategy, and regional influence dominated headlines, another front quietly shaped Iran's last year: the social and cultural sphere, where the youth and creative communities navigated censorship, surveillance, and economic pressures to assert their voice. The rise of digital activism. Iranian youth, born into years of political tension, sanctions, and restricted freedoms, increasingly relied on digital platforms for connection, expression, and activism. Social media, though officially restricted, became a space for discussion, coordination, and subtle protest. Messaging apps, VPNs, and encrypted platforms allowed young Iranians to share ideas, organize cultural events, and discuss social issues with relative safety. This digital activism had multiple layers. Some posts highlighted societal grievances, while others expressed humor or creativity as forms of resistance. Memes and online videos became powerful vehicles for commentary, often circumventing traditional censorship methods. Cultural expression as subtle protest. Art, literature, and music became avenues for expression and quiet defiance. Underground exhibitions, independent publications, and digital performances allowed artists to explore social and political issues indirectly, using allegory, symbolism, and satire. These cultural acts were not merely aesthetic, they were statements of resilience. Through creativity, Iranians could assert identity, challenge norms, and influence perceptions both domestically and internationally. Women and digital spaces. Women played a significant role in this digital cultural resistance. Through social media campaigns, online communities, and artistic expression, they challenged restrictive norms in ways that were subtle yet impactful. Even small acts such as sharing images, participating in discussions, or highlighting achievements served as forms of empowerment and societal commentary. These acts reflected a broader phenomenon: Iranian women and youth were redefining resistance in the 21st century, not always through protests in the streets, but through persistent, creative engagement online and offline. Online communities and civil society. Digital platforms facilitated the creation of communities where citizens could share knowledge, discuss ideas, and support one another. These networks enabled collaboration on education, entrepreneurship, and social projects, fostering a sense of agency amid uncertainty. Though the government monitored digital activity, online resilience continued to grow. Youth learned to navigate censorship, maintain anonymity, and disseminate information creatively, balancing risk with the need to be heard. International perception. Global observers increasingly recognized these subtle forms of resistance as signs of a vibrant, if constrained, civil society. Reports on Iranian youth activism, women's campaigns, and underground cultural movements highlighted the complexity of Iranian society, challenging simplistic narratives of oppression or compliance. At the same time, international attention amplified pressure on Tehran to balance control with recognition of human rights and freedoms, adding another layer of complexity to domestic governance. The impact on society. The combined effect of digital activism and cultural resistance was transformative. While not overtly revolutionary, these movements nurtured critical thinking, preserved cultural identity, and offered citizens avenues to express dissatisfaction safely. They also reminded leadership that societal compliance was not absolute. Even under surveillance, individuals and communities maintained agency, creativity, and influence. Conclusion. By the end of last year, Iran's social and cultural landscape was defined by resilience, creativity, and subtle defiance. Youth and women leveraged digital spaces to navigate restrictions, express identity, and challenge norms. Art, literature, and online communities became forms of both expression and quiet resistance. This internal, often invisible front shaped Iranian society profoundly, setting the stage for continuing tensions between control and freedom in the years to follow. Regional conflicts in detail: Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen. Last year, Iran's regional influence continued to be exercised primarily through a network of allies and proxy groups. From Iraq to Yemen, Tehran maintained strategic depth without engaging in direct conventional warfare, using carefully calibrated interventions to expand its reach, deter adversaries, and assert power across the Middle East. Iraq, militias and influence. In Iraq, Iran's presence was significant and multifaceted. Militias aligned with Tehran, such as Kataib Hezbollah and Asaib al-Haq, operated semi-autonomously but remained closely tied to Iranian strategy. These groups carried out attacks on US-linked bases and conducted targeted operations against rival factions. Iran's influence in Iraq was political as well as military. Through alliances with key political figures, Tehran shaped policy decisions, leveraged parliamentary power, and ensured that its regional objectives were integrated into Iraq's domestic governance. Despite this, Iran avoided direct conflict with U.S. forces stationed in Iraq, carefully calibrating operations to signal strength without provoking retaliation. The strategy reflected a broader principle: influence could be projected indirectly, minimizing risk while maximizing strategic gain. Syria, military footprint and strategic depth. Syria remained another key arena for Iranian operations. Iran supported the Assad regime through funding, military advisors, and proxy militias. The conflict in Syria allowed Tehran to project power close to Israel's borders while maintaining deniability. Last year, Iranian-backed forces conducted localized operations and coordinated with Russian forces to consolidate control over key regions. Military exercises demonstrated readiness and sent clear signals to adversaries. Yet Tehran avoided provocations that could trigger direct confrontation with Israel or Western powers. Syria served as both a proving ground and a strategic buffer, reinforcing Iran's regional posture while managing risk. Lebanon, Hezbollah's calculated moves. Hezbollah, Iran's long-standing ally, remained a central component of Tehran's strategy in Lebanon. The group increased military training, launched controlled exercises, and maintained its arsenal of missiles as a deterrent. Hezbollah's operations were designed to project power and preserve deterrence without sparking full-scale conflict. By maintaining a credible threat, Iran could influence regional calculations, deter adversaries, and reinforce its reputation as a regional power. Yemen, Houthis and maritime tensions. In Yemen, the Houthi movement continued to act as a proxy for Iranian influence. Drone strikes and missile attacks targeted shipping lanes in the Red Sea, impacting global trade and energy transport. While Iran denied direct operational control, the support in the form of funding, training, and weapons supply was evident. These actions allowed Iran to project influence far beyond its borders, demonstrating strategic reach and regional leverage without engaging in conventional warfare. Balancing influence and restraint. Across all these theaters, Iran's approach was consistent: exert influence through proxies and allies, demonstrate capability through selective operations, and avoid direct engagement that could trigger war. This balance required careful coordination, intelligence gathering, and strategic patience. Any misstep risked escalation, while excessive caution could reduce credibility. Iran's leadership successfully navigated these complexities last year, maintaining power while limiting exposure to direct military confrontation. Regional reactions. Neighboring countries closely monitored Iran's activities. Gulf states strengthened defense systems and aligned strategically with Western allies to counter potential threats. Israel maintained surveillance and conducted precise strikes where deemed necessary, particularly in Syria. Meanwhile, Iraq, Lebanon, and Yemen were caught in the delicate balance of local dynamics and regional pressures. Global powers, including the United States and European nations, responded with sanctions, warnings, and diplomatic initiatives to mitigate escalation. The intricate interplay of proxy operations, diplomacy, and deterrence highlighted the complexities of the modern Middle Eastern security landscape. Conclusion. By the end of last year, Iran had successfully expanded its regional influence while avoiding direct war. Its network of proxies and allies allowed it to assert power across multiple countries, create strategic depth, and shape regional dynamics. Yet the approach came with challenges: managing proxies, sustaining support, and balancing domestic priorities against regional ambitions. These complexities would continue to define Iran's strategy in the coming years, as the nation sought to maintain influence without triggering full-scale conflict. Energy, trade, and economic survival. Last year, Iran's economy faced intense pressure from ongoing sanctions, currency instability, and global scrutiny. Yet through careful strategy, regional partnerships, and adaptive policies, Tehran managed to sustain its economy, maintain critical exports, and continue funding its domestic programs and regional influence. The economic narrative of last year was one of survival, resilience, and calculated adaptation. Oil exports amid sanctions. Oil remained the backbone of Iran's economy, but Western sanctions restricted access to global markets. Official exports were limited, while unofficial channels including trade with regional allies and select Asian partners helped offset the losses. China emerged as a critical economic partner, importing oil and investing in infrastructure. These arrangements allowed Tehran to sustain revenue streams despite international pressure. At the same time, Iran developed alternative mechanisms, such as barter systems and non-dollar transactions, to bypass restrictions and preserve financial liquidity. Trade diversification and regional cooperation. Beyond oil, Iran sought to diversify trade and secure essential goods. Exports of metals, petrochemicals, and agricultural products were emphasized, often through regional and Asian markets. Cooperation with Russia facilitated trade in technology, energy, and military equipment. Meanwhile, partnerships with countries like Turkey and Iraq enabled the flow of goods and raw materials, helping stabilize the domestic market. These strategic alliances were crucial in maintaining the economy under duress. Domestic economic management. Internally, the government focused on sustaining essential services and supporting critical industries. Price controls, subsidies, and local production initiatives attempted to mitigate the effects of inflation on ordinary citizens. The resistance economy policy emphasized self-reliance, local manufacturing, and domestic innovation. While challenges remained particularly in healthcare, education, and consumer goods, the strategy helped prevent complete economic collapse. Citizens adapted through informal markets, entrepreneurship, and community support systems. Balancing spending, domestic needs vs regional ambitions. Iran faced a strategic dilemma: how to fund regional influence while addressing domestic economic hardship. Supporting proxies, maintaining the nuclear program, and advancing military capabilities required significant resources. Yet neglecting domestic stability risked unrest and political fatigue. Leadership managed this balance by prioritizing strategic investments abroad while implementing targeted domestic relief. The approach was delicate: sufficient domestic support to prevent mass dissatisfaction, yet enough external spending to sustain regional credibility. Inflation, currency, and public sentiment. The Iranian rial continued to fluctuate, affecting purchasing power and household stability. Food, fuel, and medicine remained expensive, prompting citizens to adapt daily routines and manage scarce resources. Public sentiment was complex. While many resented economic hardship, national pride in Iran's regional influence and resilience helped maintain social cohesion. Economic difficulties were perceived not just as policy failures, but as consequences of external pressure and sanctions, reinforcing narratives of resistance and sovereignty. Energy infrastructure and strategic resilience. Iran invested in energy infrastructure to increase self-sufficiency and reduce dependence on imports. Expansion of natural gas, petrochemical, and domestic oil refining capacity improved long-term sustainability. These projects also reinforced Tehran's bargaining power in regional energy politics, signaling that sanctions alone could not fully undermine Iran's economic position. International financial maneuvering. To navigate global financial restrictions, Iran relied on creative solutions, barter trade, non-dollar transactions, and partnerships with friendly nations. These mechanisms allowed the continuation of trade, investment, and military procurement despite economic isolation. By leveraging international alliances, Iran maintained a level of economic stability that supported both domestic needs and strategic initiatives abroad. Conclusion: Iran's economic story last year was one of adaptation and resilience. Despite sanctions, currency volatility, and inflation, the country maintained critical oil exports, secured trade partnerships, and managed domestic stability. Balancing domestic economic needs with regional influence became a central feature of Tehran's strategy. This approach reinforced national pride, sustained political legitimacy, and allowed Iran to continue asserting power abroad, setting the stage for future challenges and strategic decisions. Iran's future at a crossroads: choices, challenges, and resilience. As last year closed, Iran found itself at a critical junction. The nation had navigated economic hardship, regional conflicts, proxy engagements, nuclear scrutiny, and internal social pressures. Its leadership had maintained strategic influence abroad, avoided direct war, and sustained domestic stability, but the challenges ahead remained profound. Balancing domestic pressures. Inside Iran, citizens faced persistent economic uncertainty, surveillance, and limited freedoms. Youth frustration, women's subtle resistance, and cultural activism highlighted the tension between control and aspiration. The leadership confronted a delicate question: how to maintain authority without provoking mass unrest. Small, localized protests continued, and the government's response relied on precision arrests, warnings, and digital monitoring rather than sweeping crackdowns. The population had learned to adapt, balancing survival with quiet resistance, while leadership relied on careful messaging to reinforce legitimacy. Regional ambitions vs. internal constraints. Iran's regional strategy had been largely successful. Proxy operations, alliances with Russia and China, and influence across Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen reinforced Tehran's role as a regional power. Yet projecting influence required resources: financial, military, and diplomatic that competed with domestic needs. Maintaining this balance remained one of the greatest challenges for Iran. Missile location could lead to unrest at home, while underinvestment could weaken Tehran's leverage abroad. Navigating global dynamics. Internationally, Iran faced a complex web of challenges. Relations with the United States remained tense but nonviolent, relying on indirect diplomacy, prisoner swaps, and careful signaling to avoid open conflict. Sanctions, nuclear negotiations, and global scrutiny continued to define Tehran's strategic decisions. At the same time, partnerships with Russia and China offered alternative avenues for economic relief and diplomatic support. Iran had effectively positioned itself to navigate global isolation while retaining strategic autonomy. Potential scenarios. Looking ahead, multiple futures were possible for Iran. Gradual reform, incremental political or economic reforms could ease domestic pressures, improve international relations, and create stability. This scenario required compromise and foresight, particularly balancing internal legitimacy with strategic goals. Continued resilience, maintaining current strategies of controlled domestic management and regional influence could sustain Iran's power. This approach depended on patience, careful allocation of resources, and continued adaptability in the face of sanctions and scrutiny. Escalation or unrest, missteps whether in foreign policy, economic management, or domestic governance could trigger unrest or regional confrontation. While Tehran had avoided war last year, the margins remained narrow, and global or internal events could provoke unexpected escalation. Lessons from the past year. The experiences of last year underscored Iran's dual reality, a nation capable of exerting influence across borders while facing internal fatigue and social pressures. Strategic patience, adaptability, and alliances allowed Iran to survive complex challenges. Yet resilience alone would not guarantee future success. Addressing economic needs, listening to youth voices, managing societal pressures, and navigating international negotiations would be crucial to sustaining stability and influence. The nation between tradition and change. Iran's story is defined by contrasts: pride and struggle, control and resistance, sovereignty and global scrutiny. Its people and leadership have learned to adapt, survive, and influence, but the nation's path forward remains uncertain. The choices made in the coming months how to balance domestic pressures, maintain regional influence, and engage with the world will shape Iran's trajectory for years to come. Conclusion. As the year ended, Iran stood at a crossroads. Its resilience had been tested, its influence affirmed, and its society quietly pushing boundaries. The nation's future would emerge from the delicate interplay between internal adaptation, strategic calculation, and global dynamics. One thing remained clear: Iran's story was far from over. Its people, culture, and strategic ambitions ensured that it would continue to shape the region, challenge assumptions, and navigate the uncertain currents of the modern world.